Welcome to Two Deep Hokies Under the Influence, a Sons of Saturday podcast. I'm your host, Pete B. I've got my co-host, Sam Jesse, here. We also have a very special guest, Kolby Crawford from VT Scoop and 247 Sports joins the show. Kolby, thanks for being here, man.
Yeah, man, I appreciate the invite as always. Always a pleasure jumping on with you guys, so looking forward to it.
Kolby's going to help us get into spring practice, go through all the latest news, and there was some stuff that happened, man. There was an announcement. We had something at the end of last week involving QB1 and then maybe some clarification or some more confusion that happened surrounding Kyron drones today. We'll get into that. We'll get into all the updates at all the different positions. But I'm excited to get your feelings on 2025, what this upcoming season is looking like. For now, Sam, I need you to give us a cheers.
Yeah, so my cheers is to, I guess, I know the Kyron injury news isn't great, and I know the vibes are not super high. And we're going to talk about it, and we're going to talk about what the team looks like this spring and all, but my cheers is to just endless possibilities, because I don't think anyone is really having a very productive spring right now, and it's all up from here. We're at bottom, guys. This is
the news put it at the bottom.
It's not even just the news. It's just the vibe. And I'm just like, okay, I understand where we're at right now. It's only up from here. It's only up.
Cheers to that, man.
I'm not drinking that. I got a Kirkland seltzer tonight, guys.
Oh yeah.
Shout out Costco.
Kirkland brand. You can't beat it. We did have Mike Burnup on the show just a week ago. And I will counter what Sam just said. Mike said the vibes are okay. Mike had some positivity for us. Now, this was prior to Kyron's news, but there's positions, there's areas of the team where there is some positivity, and we will get into that. At the end of the show, after we talk to Kolby, do some football stuff, we're going to do men's and women's basketball, a lot of portal action going on, softball, rolling, absolutely rolling right now. They won 13 in a row coming into today. I actually haven't had even a chance to check what happened against Charlotte.
They crushed them.
They won. Okay. That's good. Baseball, they popped into the rankings this week. We'll talk about them. I also wanted to point out that after the spring game, 6 p.m. at the Maroon Door in downtown Blacksburg, we're going to be there. We're doing the live post-game show. Me, Boundary Corner, Tales from the Terror Dome, Jeremy Counts from Blacksburg on the Rocks. Kolby might slide through. It's going to be a good time. Make sure you roll up 6 p.m. at the Maroon Door. It's a cool little brew pub. They brew their own beer. It's good food. Everyone that lives in Blacksburg or is local always has good things to say about the Maroon Door. So I'm excited about checking it out. They are going to be our very kind hosts on Saturday after the spring game. And I'm going to keep it together. People are a little bit worried. One of the first comments on Instagram was like, you guys are going to be sloshed. Why are you doing that? But we're going to see if I can be an adult, if everyone that's going to be on the show is got their wits about them, and we'll have hopefully some takes. And that's going to bring me to my first thing, Kolby. And make sure you like the video. If you're watching on YouTube, like the video and subscribe. The format for this on ACC Network, we've been told it's going to be more of kind of like interviews and maybe some shots of what's going on the field. If you're there in person, will we be getting some 11-on-11 football action?
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. Obviously, we talked to Coach Pry today following spring practice number 12. I feel like this spring has absolutely flown by with the late spring break. They've really had to stack some weeks full of practices. So it's crazy that we're talking about the spring games just on Saturday. But yeah, it sounds like Coach Pry after today said it's going to look a lot like last year. The first half's going to be pretty much game speed, or as game speed as you can get in a spring game. 11-on-11 action for those first 30 minutes. And then the second half's probably going to be more play script style, OC in the backfield, really getting the work they need more specified. And that's going to be more of the open practice scrimmage element as opposed to just a full-on spring game. But you're definitely going to see classic elements. It's not just going to be a showcase or a carnival as some other programs are doing this year.
The Old Miss thing from last year.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Now
Montana State has a rodeo.
That's pretty cool.
They call it Montana State Rodeo. Yep.
We have an El Rodeo, so
nicely done.
But yeah, I mean, with that regard, it'll be exciting because I mean, even the media, we haven't seen any 11-on-11 portions, so you really get to see what you get. And I know we'll touch on the Kyron deal, but when you bring in two mid-year enrollee guys who are really green but have a bunch of upside, and there's with the going to 105, and that's a whole different thing. You only have 4 rostered quarterbacks, not 4 scholarship guys. You only have 4 available guys as it stands. So you're going to get to see those young guys thrown into the fire in front of 20,000 fans in Lane Stadium and see what you get. So I think that's really exciting to see for them, because you're going to get the opportunity for a lot of young guys who you don't know their name to kind of pop and see how they do.
And that's what's going to make the post-game show all the more important, because those people who aren't there in person won't have the full view that me and Kolby will be getting. Sam will not be in attendance, but me and Brian and Dan and all the other people that'll be down. I think Rich is going to be down, among other people that work for Sons of Saturday. We're going to get an eyeful, at least a little something, with the new coordinators, the new schemes, and all the rest of that. And I want to ask you about the coaches in 1 second, but the uniforms, we're going orange versus white rather than orange versus maroon, but they're both wearing maroon pants. Sam, your thoughts on the uniforms?
Pete, I call it like I see them with the uniforms. The orange jersey, maroon pants is hideous.
Oh, you don't like it?
It is atrocious. Oh my gosh, it's bad. But like, it's probably as silly as like they only have a full roster's worth of like certain jerseys in or something like that. Like that's kind of what happens. So it's obviously not a very big deal. But yeah, I personally, if I had to choose, I would just do like all maroon versus all white, and then put the quarterbacks in the bright orange, so we really know what color like they're going with. But dude, it's least of my concerns right now, Pete.
Last year, didn't we get full color rush? Wasn't it full maroon versus full orange? I'm trying to remember, because
I don't think so, because the quarterbacks, I think every year have been in orange. It's been.
I was watching some old. Maybe it was 2 years. Like, I feel like there was 1 year where we went color rush, but regardless, we're getting a mixed match of all different colors of the jerseys and the pants, and it'll be a sight to see. And the weather right now, not looking amazing. I got my fingers crossed it's going to improve just a little bit.
Bring your coat. I mean, I couldn't believe it this weekend. I mean, I was here on Saturday, gorgeous. Went down to Charlotte, gorgeous. And then I'm driving to the facility this morning, and there's snow coming across my windshield. So you're getting the full Blacksburg experience. It is April 8th. We had snow this weekend. It's looking a little chilly. Hopefully the wind lays off so it's not too miserable, but definitely bring a jacket and be prepared for a Saturday in the fall type experience.
All right, let's go to those coaches I mentioned. Is there a different style in practice from what you've seen, Kolby? Because we've got 2 new coordinators. We've got, obviously, the strength and conditioning coach, who's not necessarily at practice, but also Matt Moore is a new face. Is there a different feel with all these new voices everywhere?
100%. It seems like almost everyone's a new face. Now, you have a bunch of returning position coaches. Obviously, the head coach is still around, but I mean, everyone from the back end player personnel on the sidelines. I mean, there was so much overturn at so many positions. I feel like, who is that? Who is that? Like, and just a couple years ago, you kind of started to get familiar with some people, but there definitely is some very new looks at practice, and then you still have a lot of that consistency from having a lot of those position coaches out there. The defensive coordinator, I feel like, has brought, I think I posted on the message board today, it seems like there's a different, he's obviously talked about a lot, intensity, playing with high motor, fierce, and you can tell, I mean, in some interviews, he may come across as more soft-spoken, but I mean, on the practice field, he is very intense and vocal in what he's looking for. A lot of really good tackling drills going on, fundamentals, and I think the message has been laid out clearly to the other position coaches, and that's getting passed on to the players as well. I think one of the things just in talking to the players that they've made really clear is learning complicated concepts, but in a simple manner, and then implementing that over their little mini camp weeks. So let's say you have 4 practices in a week, just installing different things, one thing at a time, and then the full picture comes clear. Now that's just a specific subset, but there is definitely a new look. I mean, everyone, when they come in and you're the big whistle either at OC or DC, you're going to run things the way you want to. So there's little changes. I mean, periods 2 through 8 at pretty much any football practice are going to look relatively similar with individual drills and ball security and different things, but you can tell there's some different things going on.
I think you said something on the boards like there does seem to be a little bit more hands-on uh, approach from the new coaches. Like maybe micromanaging isn't the right word, but maybe a little bit more coaching, so to
Yeah.
speak.
I'd say one that stands out to me is really, I mean, Adibi's been on the staff, but now the linebackers are his. And when Jaden Keller's the first through a line on something, and I mean, Xavier Adibi will jump right in there and say, all right, lower pad level here, swim through, like really getting on with it every rep. It's not just, okay, good, let's go through the motions on things. It's really being process oriented in the way they're attacking certain things. Now that's just one small subset, but you do get that feel. And I'm not trying to pitch like there weren't things like that going on in the past, but it just seems like the intensity knob's been turned up a little bit.
Yeah, I think anybody who's played an organized sport, high school, college, beyond, whatever, you know the difference between a coach that says, all right, here's the drill, go run the drill, and then a coach who kind of runs the drill with you and in step by step is monitoring everything and interjecting and wanting you to be more intense. And as all the best coaches kind of like are that they kind of toe this line between helicopter parent and like master motivator. And I've heard similar things about some of the new guys that they brought on staff, specifically on the defensive side. And Adibi, not a new guy, but certainly intensity has never been a problem for Xavier Adibi. So that's great to hear. I'm curious about the offensive line, what you've seen from that group. I know they might have had some guys banged up and there's a lot of new faces, but the few things I've seen from videos is, one, they look bigger than last year. And then two, there looks to be a little bit more of the finishing touch. You're seeing some pancakes. You're seeing some playing through the whistle from that unit. What have you seen from the big guys up front?
Yeah, I think the first aspect of that is having a good winner, and that starts with Coach Jarrett Ferguson in the weight room, getting those guys right and ready to go, put pause on the defense, and sort of getting themselves prepared. I mean, you saw just even body typing going down on the field in years past against some of these other squads from, I mean, you hate to fall into the stereotypes, but even Big Ten, SEC teams, and it's just, you could tell a difference just body typing wise. And I think they had a really great offseason, obviously bringing in the 3 West Virginia transfers. So Matt Moore had a little bit of familiarity with those players, but I mean, still in this room, they have looked improved. Matt Moore has done a really great job. Obviously, another really vocal guy, someone who's super proven. Jens Danielson, I believe I'm saying his name correctly. Jens, not Jens. The co-offensive line coach, I believe, is his title, but he's done a lot of great work, specifically with the centers. I know he's always in Kyle Altuner's pocket. But yeah, you're going to have, I think this spring game is what I'm so excited to see with the offensive line, because you look down the roster, you mentioned a couple guys nicked up, banged up. That's going to come with the territory, but there's 7-8 guys who have seen collegiate action, and then a lot of really green guys who have been brought in and haven't kind of been thrown into the fire. So a lot of development. We do have something coming in approximately 8 days called the spring portal window. So a lot of things are going to shake out, because I mean, this roster is not set, not at 105, like the house settlement's up in the air. So there's a lot. And I think the one position group that I think most spectators will probably be watching closest, because it starts with the guys up front, will be that offensive line group. But overall, technique-wise, yes, getting better push. And some people like to retort with that, well, you lose 2 All-Americans in Peebles and Antoine Powell-Ryland, but we can talk about the D-line too. I mean, you backfilled with some really great talent who has also flashed here. So I'm really excited about that group. It's just staying healthy and just continuing to develop and flow, because one of the biggest things last year, you talk about a lot of those guys on the line had sort of been playing next to each other for a couple seasons. Is that communication factor. We talked with Coach Moore pretty early on. It was basketball season. I want to say they were still in hunger drills, but he talked about how just important that communication is, knowing the left guard tendencies and call outs to the center and then the right tackle hearing it, and just that communication. So when you put out that 5 and they've only had 7 practices together, let's say, it's difficult. So those guys are still gelling together, but he's seen that progression.
With Remack coming in, I think most of us assume that's a day 1 starter.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else that you would feel comfortable saying right now, like that guy is probably a starter, whether it's Schick or Meadows or a Ganem or somebody like that?
Yeah, so this is a funny game. I just whatever was on Twitter and saw the Shane Beamer thing. I don't know if you guys saw it today from they let the media in and saying who's ones, twos, and threes. I'm not saying anyone's a 1, a 2, or a 3, but out of that group, Remac's a guy who has really popped. I like Altuner on the inside at center. He's done some really great things. Obviously, we know Lath won the job out of spring and into fall camp last year, had a medical deal, so he missed the rest of the year, but Lath has looked good. And then you talk about Johnny Garrett. I always think about Johnny Garrett in that ODU game when Xavier Chaplin went down right before the game in one of the most freaky, crazy accidents I'd ever seen. And then Johnny Garrett, I know that first half at ODU was a little shaky, but Johnny Garrett steps right in, doesn't have his nameplate on his jersey, and I think kind of holds down the left side of that line. He's looked really impressive. And then on the right side, there was a really good segment on Josh Pate's show with Mike Norvell the other day, and it was about those transfers where you think you bring in a transfer and it's 1 year, and you have 1 year with them, and if they don't produce right after that, they're a bust. But they have multiple years of eligibility. You think about a cycle ago, Montavious Cunningham from Georgia State.
That was who I was going to ask about next. Yeah,
I was about to say he's been moved him inside, and I think he's had a really solid spring camp. So it's those guys who continue to develop, and so I would say those 5 right now are really standing out to me. But yeah, I mean, then you have guys knocking on the door: Brody Meadows, Lucas Austin, also from West Virginia. You got some younger guys, Tommy Ricard. I know he was looking. Before he got sick,
hoping to see him in the bowl game. Yeah,
I was about to say before he got sick, he looked like he was going to be the starting center at the Mayo Bowl. So him, and then guys like Aiden Lynch, just guys like that. So I think
Stallard's on campus too, right?
Yeah, he's on campus, which is big. I mean, he's big also.
He's huge
to get, because you missed a couple guys last year getting them early. I think offensive line. I mean, it's so valuable for every position to get there early, mid-year, and roll. But specifically the offensive line, because to get your body just right to play at the collegiate level at that position, it's so much different than high school. So really getting on early, it's going to put him leaps and bounds ahead. And I'm excited to see him play the spring game. So that'll be really good. And then obviously they'll have another high school offensive lineman joining in the summer. But yeah, I think that group's look good. And then you mentioned a couple other guys, Bob Schick. You know what you're going to get. He's played on the line a couple years, so he's still in the mix. So you got some pretty good depth on the back end. But like I said, about 8 days, that spring portal, I think that's maybe a position group to watch. Yeah,
that they target. Understood. Well, let's talk about who they will be protecting, because they are no longer protecting Kyron Drones. Let's get to that injury news. Pry actually spoke about it today, but the official release from the end of last week said Drones is scheduled to have a minor medical procedure, and we've made the decision to hold him out for the remainder of spring practice. Leadership, this and that. And it was more or less revealed that he's going to have a surgery, right? And Price said today that it was sore. They reached out to some experts, and it just became clear that this was the best path to have him at 100% for the entirety of the year, or at least get him to 100% before the year starts. And he wouldn't talk about specifics. He wouldn't actually even mention the body part, but the timetable that he put out there was mid-June with a new offense, rehabbing, healing from a surgery. Is it right for the fan base to have a little bit of concern about this? Or do you feel that he's going to be fine by the time fall camp rolls around?
I mean, anytime you bring surgery into the mix, there's concern. Now, I mean, you look at the DJ Lagway situation in Florida with his shoulder. He's not throwing in spring camp. Honestly, I think this is maybe even an echelon below this. Just coming from my perspective, I know a lot of people is obviously a very hot button issue, which I was pretty surprised to see the feedback it's gotten over the last week or so.
The boards were a mess over this.
Yeah, it was. I don't know. People took it a lot of different ways. I would say hold your horses, and I know I've become the sunshine pumper. Everything's fine. Live with your head buried in the sand. But on this specifically, I wouldn't carry too much concern over it. Obviously, you don't want your quarterback to miss any reps, specifically when you're installing a new offense. But you're not talking about a redshirt sophomore, a redshirt freshman. This is a guy who's played quite a bit of college football. You're installing a new offense, but he's still sitting in these meetings. He's still leading. You talk about, we talk to these players. They talk about Kelvin Gilliam, Kyron, like really leading the right way, not leaving anything on the table this year. This is a guy you bring in. There's so many rumors that I won't even buy into surrounding this that just get wrapped up in people, but I wouldn't look past it. I think he will be back for June. And once you get into the summer months, it's really all player driven. And
I don't want to make you say anything that you don't want to say, but just for clarity for the listeners, this is not a new injury, so to speak. This is a re-aggravation of one of the injuries he had last year, correct?
Yeah, and I think it's just a proactive measure to make sure, because everyone saw what happened last year. When you go in to the Vanderbilt game and then things just start to roll, and you go to Rutgers, and then there's Georgia Tech, and you're playing really dinged up, and then you have the Syracuse fiasco where it's right before everyone's in the dark and people are surprised because they were going out there for media and then pulling him right back out. He's walking around campus in a boot. You don't want that. You want your starting quarterback healthy for at least the 12-year guaranteed and hopefully even further. They've consulted the right people. It wasn't a deal where why didn't they get it months ago? It was something where they consulted the right people. They did things the right way, and this is just the way it fell. It came back up in spring, and this is the way to do it, where you still got 7 or so practices in, and now it's really up to the players at this point over that summer period to go throw, because that's when you're not getting those coaches-led sessions. And I think everyone's aware the best college football teams, the best any teams, are player-led, but it's trickled down from the coaches. So you're really going to have that buy-in over the summer when everyone's here to go lead those throws and get him back healthy. So
with regard to the information, you can only know when that information becomes available to you. And that's kind of what the coaches were dealing with here. Until he was sore, they didn't have to look into it. And then they needed to rest him, which we had our rest day. And then that rest day became, it's time for surgery. And I think that's where maybe the fan base feels a little like, oh crap, this escalated. But I think that the attitude that you have in terms of like, let's just cool our jets here. He should be fine. Mid-June, he's already had a spring with the offense for the most part. And that's what I wanted to get to next, is that before he was shut down, there was a lot of talk about how good he was looking. Can you speak on that at all?
100%, which is part of the bummer, because I really like big strides. Like I would like to say, I mean, obviously over every spring, Kyron looked to make stride, and maybe a regression year last year, just obviously dealing with the injuries. But throwing a pretty ball, it's clear he spent a lot of time with Coach Chris, just really working on that release. He just seems so comfortable. I mean, he's been throwing to these receivers now, Aiden Green, his entire career, Tucker Holloway. There's just so many guys. He just felt, I hate to use the word aura because it's turned into such a meme, but I mean, there was just an aura about him where he was running the show. And people know Kyron's not exactly the biggest raw guy, but he's a lead by example, lead from the front type of player. So I think he was doing a really good job of that. And like I said, we didn't see any 11-on-11 period, but in what we saw, he was really running the show. So I think that's the biggest bummer, but it's just the way it is. It's April. Coaches would be thrilled to have this happen now as opposed into September. So
yeah. And the way Brent Pry worded it, if you listen to his whole answer, it sounds a lot more like a preventative procedure. And this has become a little bit more popular in college football. One of the first ones, one of the more high profile ones, was Tua Tagovailoa. He had a couple ankle sprains, and they ended up they basically put a little metal rod into your ankle to make it so you have like a brace inside your ankle. That's kind of the way to think about it. And then over the last few years, more and more of these types of surgeries have been developed. And so it's not a oh, you need to go fix a tear, you need to go do like a cleanup, quote unquote. Some of these are purely preventative. And if he's saying, hey, I had a surgery around here, it's probably his knee or his foot, it's one or the other. It's still a little sore, it's still swelling up a bit. A doctor would say, yeah, let's just go put something in there if your insurance covers it, right? And like, let's go do that. It's more elective surgery than it is, oh, you need this to walk.
This is not the Jones fracture or the Liz Frank injury. Like
No.
those are very serious. I mean, maybe never play again type of injuries. It's not being worded like this if that's the injury.
And the shutdown for a day could very well be in order to make sure that there's no swelling when they go in to do imaging pre-surgery.
Yeah.
And that was, it does all make sense. Overreacting is fun.
It's not great though. I get it. I want to be honest. Like it's not.
You lose your starting quarterback a week before the spring game.
It's 100% not great. And I don't want to come on here.
No one likes it.
Make it seem like sunshine and rainbows, but I also don't want to. I mean, some of the rumors are so outlandish. Like I don't even want to buy.
Don't even.
Like he's not going to LSU. People, he's not going to LSU. I promise you, they're good with Nussmeier.
But that first day, obviously, I think that was where the biggest disconnect came in when VT wanted to make sure that the message that got out was it was load management rest day, and when he was in a boot that morning, and it's fine. Like I understand you got to do the thing, but it's just. It's tough. So like you said, to go get the imaging, you got to get the rest day. You don't want it to swell up, all those things. But there does seem to be a little disconnect with the fans, obviously with the product on the field, and then the message that's coming across and feeling like they're getting deceived. I don't want to sound like this is absolutely no issue. It's not the perfect scenario, but with everything I know, and obviously like I'm not exactly at liberty to say everything, but I feel really confident this summer. He'll be back, fall camp. You're going to get 100%, and then you really don't have to live with the skeleton or the fear looking over your shoulder. Oh, does this come up if I make a hard cut and we're 1 month out from South Carolina? And so it's just kind of sleep easy at night, hit the rehab. He has been attached at the hip of Jay Ferg, sort of getting ready ahead of this thing. So I think they'll be ready.
Sounds like he does everything right. Like his body may have betrayed him here and there, and he had his leg got rolled up on in the game last fall, and we're probably still dealing with that. And look, he's in a boot. So if you're wondering whether it's his knee or his foot, he's in a boot. So let's go with that, and we can finish the Kyron conversation and move on to the other quarterbacks, and then get to all the other positions. But let's turn our attention to Pop here. How does he look physically? Because by my eye, and for what I've read, he looks like he's a little bit bigger than last year.
Yeah, we talked to him today. He told us he's 202, and that's kind of exactly where he wants to be. Not really putting on much more. He said he got a little heavier, dealt with just some, I hate to even bring up injuries anymore, but he said just some nagging injuries, so he kind of just wanted to maintain this offseason, and he looks good. And like I said, he's always thrown a really pretty ball. I think fans are even exposed to that in his first spring game when he made that first big play down the left sideline. But he's really, today, I mean, it's never been an issue for him, confidence. And he always feels like he's the guy, and he goes out there and shows that. When he's leading drills, when he's second team in drills, he goes through it with the exact same intensity and mindset and talking trash and just getting after it. So I think he really ran the show today, and it really didn't miss a beat. So obviously, you saw a lot of really positive things at the end of last year, flashes in the Duke game, obviously the big pop of the UVA game, and then the Mayo Bowl when you're a little thin there on the offensive line, and they know they've got a younger quarterback making his third start. You can really get after him, sort of get in his face, frazzle him. And that was one thing. He said he goes back and watches that film, and there's so much he wish he could go back and do. So he's waiting in the wings. Obviously, I think Andy asked a question today about in this era of college football when you see guys before they even, mid-year enrollee guys lose out in the quarterback job and they up and leave town. And you said, nope, never even crossed my mind, never ran from a competition. I'm here to make Kyron better and just keep competing.
I find that very interesting, right? Because he does seem like a confident guy, and it's widely accepted prior to Kyron's injury, even after Kyron's injury, like he's ahead of you. He is the starter and you are the backup.
Mm-hmm.
And comfort might not be the right word, but he does seem okay with that role and just getting better and maybe it being his show in 1 year from now. That's the sense you get, Kolby.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, this is a guy who has a great head on his shoulder. Great support system. And at the end of the day, I think we've become, whether it's social media or just what we've become accustomed to with the portal, that this is a guy who has 3 years of eligibility left. Like at the end of the day, he can go play 3 full seasons, including this year. So there's still so much time, and he's just continuing to progress. So I think when he came in, it was pretty clear, like these offense, like we talk about Carter Stallard, like we talk about when we get to these younger quarterbacks here in a second. It is really hard to play as a freshman at any position. It's really hard to get your body and your mind right to go play as a freshman or even a redshirt freshman. Look at even Arch Manning this year. I know that's different with Quinn Ewers coming back, but still, just it takes some time. You don't want to go throw these guys to the fire and break them a little bit mentally. So I think he's kept a great head on his shoulders, and all he's done is just gone out there, compete and work and get better. And you've seen that. So it's I think a really positive trickle down effect. He exudes confidence, and that goes to the entire team. When he's leading the offense in drills against the defense, he's firing up the guys, letting them have it. So,
and even at that 200 pounds, he pulled off that backflip, right?
Yeah.
Which was pretty.
That was last season, right? I think
it was like one of the first practices of this spring practice. He like threw a touchdown pass. Unless I'm mistaken, I thought he threw a touchdown pass.
Maybe that was last spring because I do remember
he can do a backflip.
Okay, well, regardless, he's a freaky athlete. Yes.
Yeah. Real quick on 2 of the younger quarterbacks, Keldon Ryan is a guy who the Hokies were early on out of Texas, kept him in the recruiting class even with the OC change. What have you seen from him? And then Davi Belfort, the speedster from Florida.
Yeah, I'll do a dive on all 3 of those guys. AJ Brand, the other mid-year enrollee.
AJ Brand, yep.
I was about to say. So Davi, he was stepping up second team today. Obviously, with Kyron being out, it was Pop 1, Davi 2. Coach Fry even talked about after Davi's done some good things, specifically in the run game. I'm sure people have seen the clips going around the mill on social media of him slicing and dicing on the defense, running up the sideline, scoring a touchdown in the scrimmage. And you know he has that ability, but much like Pop, not exactly the Ben Roethlisberger, Josh Allen, Will Howard archetype of quarterback, 6'4", 6'5". These are 5'10", 5'11", 6'0", great day quarterbacks where, they just had to kind of develop a little bit. I mean, I think Pop and Davi are both super elusive. Davi, I think just a little bit has to work on that stroke, but I mean, he's made really good progression. And then you talk about the other guys, Keldon Ryan out of DeSoto High School. Virginia Tech was on him super early, signed in July, the year prior before his class stuck around. And this is a guy who he's taken a lot of reps, especially with Kyron being down, but he was stepping up, making some really nice throws. But the biggest thing with him, I think, is you just got to get situated here. Like when Kyron gets back, you don't expect too much. Like don't just be lost in the process. Really fall in love with the process of everything. Get in the weight room. Make sure to get your weight up because he has a great frame, but you got to go fill it out a little bit, and then just continuing to stay locked in with Coach Chris to quickening up that motion, the release a little bit. And they've already been in the lab tweaking things, but he's been here for what, 11 weeks of a semester now. Like he's still trying to figure out where his classes are and things of that nature. But yeah, really positive signs out of him. And then AJ Brand. I think Keldon is a more developed passer. I think AJ Brand and Davi are both really, really elusive runners and dynamic, not only just going off script, but also on design plays. When you talk about AJ Brand, this is a guy at Irmo who was just a do-it-all athlete. He designed runs, just getting out of the pocket and making things happen. And seeing him live at the Shrine Bowl, just getting out of the pocket and doing some really athletic things where just makes your eyes pop. And then just working on fitting the ball in those tight windows. And it's just, it's trial by fire. You're going up against Isaiah Brown Murray, a guy who's seen a lot. He's transferred. He's played a couple years. You're going up against guys who have been in college now 3-4 years. So it just takes time. Like, I think it's still hard for me to conceptualize. Like, you should be in high school. Like, you have prom in like 2 weeks. So to be out here going up against these guys, it's really impressive. I think they've made good strides. And like, as unfortunate it is with Kyron, I hate to keep harping on it, but it is the biggest news of spring. It will be super valuable for these true freshman guys to get in the mix and really get trial by fire.
Yeah. And we'll have options going forward in terms of our quarterbacks with all those guys in the building. Sam, do you have anything else on QB?
No, I think we're ready to move to running back here. Tech is without Bowling Green transfer, Tavian Stewart, who is still at Bowling Green, finishing his undergrad degree before he comes to Blacksburg and all. And then there's a couple other injuries out there. PJ Prelude still recovering from the knee injury he had last year. What have you sensed out of that room that has, dude, like, I don't even know if there's a returning guy there who you would say has significant D1 play. Like, it is a brand new running back room.
Especially without Terrian Stewart in the building until he gets here. It is a lot of really green players, but I mean, it's good. They've shown flashes, and I think they went out and got specific needs for guys and traits that they thought they could use. Obviously, Jeff Overton was a true freshman guy who you thought you could utilize. He's going to be out. PJ Prelo, I didn't expect he would be back this soon. So to see him still running around in blue, but just out on the practice field in spring for every practice, I think is amazing. He's looked good. I know he came on really late there in the Miami game, and I think he turned around and got hurt in that Stanford game. But that was a surprising development. And he had, if you recall a year ago, I think he probably would have got the spring game MVP if you would give it to anyone.
Fantastic in the spring game. And if it hadn't been for the injury last year, I think the Syracuse game, he could have done really well. The Clemson game, there were so many opportunities when Tootin was hurt for somebody to step up, and Prelude could have been that guy. And it was a shame to see him go down, but I'm happy to hear that if nothing else, that he's back out there running and going to be back on the team and playing next year. Can you tell us about Marcellus Hawkins? Because it's a very intriguing guy for me, with him coming from an unknown, right? What is it? Central Missouri or something?
Missouri in D2. I mean, this is a guy they identified, were super high on, just an athlete, great frame, just body contact, just balance control, finding the lane. I think this is a guy, I mean, you can just do so many things. He had great pass catching numbers at Central Missouri. He can do a little bit of everything. There was the video that came out, I think Triumph or someone released it, and he just ran right through Braylon Johnson, put the shoulder down.
That was great, yeah.
But he can put his foot in the ground. He's really dynamic. So this was a guy, I think when the whole transfer thing was going on and I was listening to some superlatives, maybe a surprise. When you see a guy going up from D2 to the ACC level, that's definitely something where it's like, I don't know, can he play at this level? And that was one guy that definitely popped.
He looks physically the part. That there's no doubt about that, and that's exciting. And you guys both talked about waiting on, Stewart and Overton and Prelude and all these guys. Who else do you see being a contributor next year? Because I know Pry has been complimentary of the running backs at times this spring. So who else do you think is going to be contributing for us in 2025?
It's tough to say. Jeremiah Coney was stringing together a lot of really nice days, and then he was not dressed today. He didn't practice, so he was on the side. I know Pry said before spring he was a little banged up, and then he was practicing, and then all of a sudden he's been a little nicked up. So that's a guy who's shown flashes. Then you talk about Tyler Mason, true freshman last year. Obviously in the Syracuse game, and I think maybe the Clemson game, and then obviously in the bowl game got some touches. And then Braden Bennett, it was sort of the last-minute dart selection in the transfer portal that was a little out of nowhere, but the Coastal Carolina guy who has shown. So today, first through lines was Marcellus Hawkins, then next was Braden Bennett, and behind them was Tyler Mason, but that was really the only three healthy backs they had going because Stewart's not there, Coney was out, Prelo wasn't going through the drill because he was still in blue. So I think it's really a mixed bag of guys. I think Stewart will come in and probably be that incumbent. Hawkins right behind him, and then Coney and Bennett just fighting in that mix right there, or a mix of those top 3 guys. But I think we're going to have to maybe put a pin in that till fall camp and see how that shakes out, because it's just there's so much up in the air. At some other position groups, it's getting clearer, but with the running backs, guys being hurt, some guys not even here, it's a little, I don't know.
Let's go from one difficult position group to another one, and that's wide receiver, because with Jennings, Felton, and Lane gone, Gosnell also gone, a couple of transfers left the program. We added Donovan Green. We added Cam Selden. Holloway comes back from injury. Devin Alves comes over from the defense. There's a lot of new faces in this room. Who's filling the leadership void right now for the wide receivers?
Aiden Green, because Donovan Green's the elder statesman in collegiate football, but Aiden Green is now one of the older guys just on this football team in general, and one of the older guys who's been here under Pry for coming up on his 3rd season, specifically in that room. So another guy who exudes confidence, demands really excellence out of his full room, and then backs it up on the field. So he's looked, I mean, every bit as advertised and as you'd expect. He's had a really great spring, I think. We'll see if his name gets called for maybe that offensive spring MVP on Saturday, but that's someone who's really, really had a great spring. And then you talk about Donovan Green, a guy who's at Wake Forest, obviously some injury issues, but a really highly rated guy coming out of high school. He's come in, done everything you would expect at the X position. Right behind him, taking reps behind him, Chance Wiggins. If you remember, obviously, Brody Adams missing the spring, some into summer. That's a guy who you almost even had penciled in as that 3rd starting wide receiver going in, but hopefully get him back and up to speed for fall camp. But behind Donovan Green, you talk about Chance Wiggins, another really highly rated guy. I mean, all the physical tools you want, size, athleticism, can go up and catch the ball at the catch point. It's just you got to see him finish plays. Make sure you finish plays, bring the ball in. Just some things you see in spring where he's right there, but just got to clean it up, get on the field. But someone, and I'm kind of bouncing around all of the ideas, but Cam Selden, this is a guy who went to a 1A high school, so you always have those questions. Is he just beaten up on this guy, the frame, the athleticism, I don't know. You just got to get this guy on the field, on special teams, kick returning, in the backfield, just get the ball in his hands. Like, I know I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but someone who you can just tell is a dynamic playmaker, moves so well with the ball. I think a very developed route tree just based on what I've seen. Someone who hasn't played wide receiver at the collegiate level, but through spring and individual drills on air has really done some things that impressed me. So I think that's a guy to look out for.
Someone I know, and I won't put these words in your mouth, but someone I know close to the program said, like, he's Jalen Lane 2.0. Like, that's what he could potentially be, like that type of playmaker in the slot.
I mean, he was the #1 recruit in the state, right?
When he was
coming out.
Player.
Like, this guy is, the ceiling is there. And I think it's always interesting when you get transfers, you run the gamut, right? You get guys from Central Missouri, and then there's a guy who's behind a bunch of NFL hopefuls at Tennessee and in that offense. And I think he's kind of it's being talked a lot about the transfer portal of like water finding its level. Guys are, for the most part, going to find where they fit the best. They're going to go up and down programs little by little. And this seems like a move for him where he might be a guy who has SEC starting wide receiver / running back / scat back, whatever he wants to play, potential. But at Tennessee, you're maybe not going to get that until your senior year, or unless somebody goes pro early. Now coming to Virginia Tech, I feel like this is them getting an elite recruit, like an elite recruit, almost for free, kind of like without doing the
We've
whole
done
like,
this
winning
before.
a guy on time.
We did it with APR. We've done it with Kelvin Gilliam. Yeah.
Yep. No, that's different position. Feels a lot like that. And Donovan Green as well as a 4-star recruit coming out of high school.
Yeah.
So, and has shown flashes of being first team all ACC potential when he was at Wake Forest.
Sam and I have mentioned it, but if Donovan Green is fully healthy and doesn't have, the tread on his tires from those previous injuries, like, he is an all ACC caliber guy. Like, he has that top end. It's a matter of putting it together in the new offense with whatever quarterback he's going to have in a new place. And so it's a challenge, but what they have to work with, despite all that talent walking out the door, there's guys there. There's talent in that room. And Kolby, you've been seeing it. So you look at 2025 top 3 receivers. If I have to pin you down right now, who do you think it is?
2025 top 3 receivers. You'll have Donovan Green, Aiden Green, so AG, DG. And then for that third spot, I'm going to put a tie between Selden and Keelan Adams. Because when Keelan comes back, I mean, in the bowl game, when he makes that play going down the left sideline, he's a block away from a touchdown and really changing the look of that entire game.
Yeah.
And, I mean, he's doing that on a banged up. I mean, he
wasn't healthy then.
No.
And then he had to have the procedure. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just there's some things that he did. I mean, he was going up against Soar and Dorian Strong late in the season last year when he wasn't all the way there. And you'd see some things and just be like, oh, my goodness. So
I do appreciate how high you are on Brody Adams. I love
I mean, and I've been on record, and I'll take that one forever. So Keelan Adams and Cam Selden, but Cam Selden has come in and just been as advertised. So I think that top 3 to 4 I mean, we'll see how they fit them. I mean, all those guys really have positional versatility, playing inside, outside, AG at the slot, Keelan obviously at the slot, Cam Selden's been at the slot. But yeah, I would take Selden now, obviously just getting the full spring, but yeah.
Before we move on to the tight ends, something interesting I found looking up Cam Selden, the 2023 recruiting class in the state of Virginia, the highest rated recruit in the state Virginia Tech got was Caleb Woodson, number 18 in the state. They now have number 1 in the state, Cam Selden, number 5 in the state, Jordan Bass, number 13 in the state, Caleb Spencer. Not a terrible recruiting class.
That's pretty funny when you think about that, man. They definitely are. Finishing second in recruiting the first time around is okay because the guys like to come home. I mean, James Joncom came home too. Not that he was a top recruit, but he's from Virginia.
Just got to stay consistent.
Yeah. All right. Quickly on the tight ends, because we got to get through all these positions real quick, but like it's our smallest room.
This one will be quick.
The one thing about Phil Montgomery's offense too, Kolby, is that I'm worried a little bit, not worried, but like the tight end production could be a little bit marginalized in his system as opposed to Tyler Bowen. Are you getting that impression, and how have the tight ends looked in general?
I mean, a little bit. I think you kind of have to scheme your offense to what you have. You have to scheme it around your weapons. I think any great offensive coordinator makes the most out of what he has. You can't jam fit puzzle pieces into a piece that doesn't fit. And right now, it's kind of what you've seen the last couple of years. You obviously have Benji Gosnell, I think a really elite
I love Benji.
Tight end. And then you have Harrison St. Germain coming right there. But behind them, it's guys who haven't really done or shown at this level. So it's just how much 12 personnel are you going to be running? I don't know, to be honest with you. And this is a position you haven't recruited in the last 3 cycles. So it does change the way it's just based on the personnel. If you don't bring in a guy the last couple cycles, it's hard to kind of.
It's weird because Bowen would always talk about he'd love to use 2 tight end sets, and like everything else, all the other tea leaves have led me to believe like we're not prioritizing this position.
This is a 10 and 11 personnel team going forward. Like I don't see a world where this is a ground and pound football program. I know some people really want that. I'm sorry, this team's not built for it. I don't particularly see them being built for it anytime soon.
But those guys have skills. Like Harrison St. Germain and Benji have receiving skills. What's going to be interesting to see is with Matt Moore coming in and the new system, like how do they block?
And Brent Davis. Better? Brent Davis going over there and becoming the tight ends coach.
Very true.
You're talking about a guy who's the co-line coach last year, slides right over. So, yeah, I mean, there's change everywhere, even the smallest things where it's the same coach but at a completely new position. But, yeah, it's kind of what you've seen the last couple of years, Benji and HSG. And
understood. All right, Sam, flip over to defense for us.
Yeah, defensive line. Real quick, we got Joncom. We got Ben Bell. This team needs those guys to be monsters if they're going to be successful. Real quick, are they monsters? Just please tell me yes, because I absolutely loved James Jonkum's media availability.
That was a trip, man. He's a character, one of one. He's been really impressive physically, and then also just on the field. Ben Bell was that same way. Obviously got a little banged up. I don't know if we'll see him on Saturday dealing with a elbow or shoulder deal. So we'll see. Don't really have clarity on that. But then you talk about the edges specifically. We'll talk about some other guys, but maybe some guys who have been waiting in the wings for a little while. Asen Stevens, Jason Abbey, some names you have heard for a little while that I think have taken some massive strides. You bring in Jair Wilson, the edges coach, but also J.C. Price. He has done such an amazing job, I guess, just fostering and instructing and getting these guys developed. When you talk about a room that just really has developed and churned out some good players from within the program, Keyshawn Burgos has taken a massive step. This is a guy where
I wanted to ask about Burgos.
Yeah,
I cut you off while you're talking about him, but like that's someone that we have been waiting for, right?
When you bring in those two transfers, you're like, oh, are they going to be the two bookends? Burgos has had an incredible camp, and I think going back to the Shane Beamer thing, but he's probably played himself into one of those starting edge spots again firmly, even after you bring in really, really solid competition to go up against him. But then it's just great depth in that room. Antoine Powell-Ryland, what was it, 16.5 sacks a year ago? It's hard to replace that, but it's like Billy Bean, replace it in the aggregate. So go out there and get as much as you can on the edges. I'm trying to think about anyone else on the edge.
That's a nice callback. They on the edge, we are calling them edges. We hired an edge coach. Are the responsibilities changing overall? Or is it a lot of the same and just a few new looks?
I would say, it's the same, a lot of new looks. I think anywhere with the edges, you want them to get after the quarterback and be able to rush the quarterback and be aggressive with it. But, there's definitely some new looks. So guys picking their hand up out of the dirt, switching, being multiple, going inside, outside. But you saw a lot of that last year too. Guys really just being multiple. You'd see APR come in, or P will slide out, or Fuga, and
Jonkum is going to be the poster boy of that, I feel like. Burgos too, but like Jonkum, he played linebacker prior, and now he's playing defensive end. So if anyone's going to be a hybrid style, you'd think it'd be him.
Exactly. But then you think about guys like Caleb Spencer coming up from linebacker and sort of doing that same thing. So it's really just changing the looks you're getting with sort of moving up or back. So I think Jonkum could definitely play that role. But yeah, Sherrod Henderson, the mid-year enrollee, I'm super, super high on him. He's done a lot to add to his frame. I don't know, and I don't think he'll be a factor this year on the field, but I think this is a guy who could be exciting to watch on Saturday and circle his name for the next couple of years. But yeah, that's mostly on the edges, those guys. Obviously the transfers, Burgos.
There was a game last year where Asen Stevens made a play. Was it the Stanford game or I can't remember, but like he came out on the edge and he made a play and it was like, oh man, that guy, that's a big dude right there.
Yeah.
And then that was one of the first guys you mentioned. So that made me feel good.
Yeah. And Jason Abbey. Those two.
Yep. Linebacker is really interesting because almost in a joking way, a few months ago when we were deciding on a defensive coordinator, Pete and I were saying, well, they can't figure out 3 linebackers, so maybe they're going to go to a defense that runs 2 linebackers. And that's kind of what they did in a way. They'll have a lot of kind of funky formations out there. But what are you seeing from the linebacker room? The biggest, I guess, question on these linebackers, right? We know Caleb Spencer, we know Caleb Woodson going to be very good. We know what Keller is by now, and he has high ceiling. Caleb Spencer is the guy that's really weird. This is, I think, his 3rd different position in college. He's moving to middle linebacker, according to Brent Pry. What does he look like in his new role?
Well, he's looked bigger, and I know I'm saying that for a lot of these guys, but I really don't think he can speak high enough about the job Jarrett Ferguson has done coming out of the bowl game and getting these guys ready to roll because number 3, he looks like a lean, mean hitting machine, honestly. We're going right behind Caleb Woodson and Jaden Keller in lines. It looks not unnatural at all, just based on the drills. Taking coaching. Such a mature approach on so many levels from Caleb Spencer. Someone who came on maybe in the Miami game and first kind of flash and played himself into some more opportunities after that and because last year he sort of worked himself into that star role. Obviously, you had Keontae Jenkins in that star role last year, who was such an anchor point. But Caleb Spencer really fought for some more playing time just based on ability, and I think he's done the same here. He's really flashed, and I mean, like I said, you have Caleb Woodson, who, I mean, as good as Caleb Spencer looks, Caleb Woodson, I mean, that is mean.
That's our guy.
He's the dude. He's the dude.
Yeah. He's that guy. So him, and obviously next to JK, who has so much experience, and like, I know the running joke of the spring MVP, but
he took a step forward last year. I thought
every year it's just building on that. I think just getting adjusted to the scheme, playing alongside Woodson, just getting more comfortable. And then behind him, obviously Caleb Spencer's looked good on the inside, playing that 2-backer look right now. And then next to them, George Balance, and then Brett Clatterbaugh, the true freshman. And then obviously you talk about Jordan Bass there briefly, a guy who's come in and he's sitting still around 205, maybe 210, still in blue. Like,
that's the problem, right? With linebacker is the depth, and we know
100%.
You get to Clatterbaugh real quick, and Clatterbaugh's a great recruit, but he's going to be a true freshman.
Yeah,
and George Balance, for whether he was on scholarship at first or now or whatever, he's a good little player. But I like that guy, but it gets thin fast, and so maybe that's. Would you think that's an area we attack in the spring portal?
That's what I was just about to say. 8 days.
Well, unfortunately, it's, at the best of times, the second thinnest portal group out there behind offensive line. Like, there are not really good linebackers aren't entering the transfer portal.
What are the two things we talking about? 2 positions.
Offensive line and linebacker. Yeah. We get it, Cole. We get it.
But I do like Spencer and Balance.
Yeah.
And those are the next, like, is Balance playing backer?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that's our, and Clatterball in a pinch, or maybe he moves ahead of one of those guys. I don't know, but that's your 5 guys that you could potentially rely on.
Yeah, those 5, but this is a completely different conversation. If you have a healthy Jordan Bass and let's just even say a healthy Gabe Williams, the linebacker position completely changes on how you feel depth-wise. It's just a couple really unfortunate deals and your back's against a wall. And that can happen in season. As you know, one tweak here, one tweak the next week, and you're looking at playing guys who haven't really done it at that level. So
we've also kind of eliminated Gabe Williams' position, kind of like, and Tremaine was a gigantic player and played backer. So, you can do that with Gabe Williams potentially if he can come back. But the way we're going to switch this defense up with whether it's 3 safeties or mostly a nickel, and this is going to lead in exactly to what Sam's about to talk about, you don't need that star linebacker, quote unquote. You will have guys fill it in the aggregate, but with lots of different positions potentially.
Yeah, and I just think with the way they attack the transfer portal, with the way this roster is built right now, I don't know what the original thought process was for defense. I think you're going to see a lot of, 5 DB looks. I think you're going to see a lot of the 3 high safety. I think you're going to see a lot of, these more complex zone coverages because that's what they recruited to, and that's who they have on the roster. So we get to the DB room. Obviously, you lose 2 NFL caliber corners and Dorian Strong going to the NFL, Mansour Delane headed to LSU. Who's backfilling those positions, and how should we feel about this defense? Because I don't think they're going to be able to have Dorian Strong Island on one half of the field like they did last year.
Yeah. And before I jump right into the cornerbacks, you guys talked about how was this defense ideally constructed in the portal. I think the biggest thing, and Pry has said it so much through spring, we finally have depth in the secondary. It was just, they felt like for so long, they just, like I said, were 1 injury away, or they had to play guys that weren't exactly there because they didn't have options. And now they have bountiful options and combinations to sort of interchange and work through. So, but yes, jumping into the cornerbacks, I mean, you lose two A-list really names, but you have Dante Lovett coming back, a guy who's probably going to be locked to that island over there. He's shown flashes, and it's kind of stepping up into his role. We talked to Isaiah Brown-Murray today, and he's going to be working primarily at that nickel, it sounds like, and that nickel position is going to be heavily featured in this defense. Let's just say, like, very heavily featured. So it sounds like he's kind of got that locked in. And then
it did sound that way from his comments that he's the nickel, but he's also like the base defensive star. You know, wherever that I don't know what we want to call that position, whether it's the third high safety or the nickel or the third linebacker, but that's where IBM is going to be.
Yeah. But also, interestingly,
how about that?
I like
great
that.
Nickname. Great nickname. But I asked Coach Pry actually about this today, about the depth in the secondary, and I was like, how about some of those younger guys? You talk about a Josh Clark, who I thought has had a great spring, really high on him too. A guy who has really compete, not scared to go against anyone. He wasn't out there today. I don't know if that's related. We'll see Saturday if he plays in the game. He was making really great strides before, if anything happened. And I was asking about Thomas Williams, Christian Williams, one of those other guys, and he said, yeah, like they made strides, they're looking good and sort of getting more acclimated. But then he jumped and said, but these three true freshman guys, Jamari Deloach, JoJo Krim, and Knowledge Harrell, they're not scared of anyone. They've come in and are ready to get after it and attack guys. And I mean, you've seen it. I remember JoJo Krim making a big play in his first collegiate practice. Jamari Deloach has added a bunch to his frame since he's got on campus. A guy who you talk about being on special teams too, could be dynamic back there, not afraid to go at anyone. And then Knowledge Harrell, someone who's added 10 pounds and came in looking like he could almost play safety already out of high school. And then he's working behind IBM now at that nickel. I mean, three guys where you really recruited the position strong. This obviously two of the state of Virginia guys, a pipeline guy, and then a massive signing day flip. I think they're really happy at that cornerback position for this year and then what they've got in years to come. But it'll be interesting to see if those guys work their way on the field. Dante Lovett, Thomas Williams, Josh Clark, I would presume would be that top group. But, I mean, it sounds like those freshmen are really knocking on the door and sort of chasing them down.
That's interesting because I for sure thought Lovett and Josh Clark would be CB1 and CB2 on the outside. I didn't really know who they would put at nickel, but I liked those two guys. And then I wasn't actually sure which Williams was the one they liked more because Christian and Thomas have both been guys they've earmarked. And Thomas, is he the one that was returning kicks and had like the couple of big plays? I forget it, the last couple of games.
Yeah, but Thomas worked his way on the field at corner too last year there for a couple games. I think he played probably about 50 snaps over the last 6 weeks or so.
And Josh Clark was playing in the bowl game and he made a couple of plays. Like that's someone that Dan from Terror Dome really likes is Josh Clark. So there's certainly guys that are here, but they're not that old either. And so if Knowledge Harrell comes in and can grab one of those spots, that would be – we saw Brandon Faison do it many years ago as a true freshman who wasn't even a super high recruit come in and be like, holy crap, this guy can start. Like that's – so there's been a precedent for it before at Virginia Tech in the DB room. And I said months ago, like after we got our portal together, I was like, I'm not worried about DB. Like this is what they've done – with young guys coming up and these portal additions. It's a lot of new faces, so that's probably a huge hurdle for Coach Cheetah and Coach Prelu and whoever else is helping out in that crew. But I feel confident that rather than starting a true freshman each of the last 2 seasons at the safety position in Mose Phillips and Quentin Reddish, we won't have to do that this year, which is nice.
Yeah, and I think they felt they made some NIL decisions in the secondary. And I think their decision was, okay, instead of paying 1 or 2 guys your allotment, we'll call it, you pay 4 or 5 guys and you have that depth. You have the ability to get some different tools in there. And then you see who adapts well. And if there's injuries, you got backfield guys. Like, it's a different strategy on building the roster this year than it was last year on the defensive side of the ball. And I'm excited to see how it plays out. The only things that we really have left in terms of position groups is the special teams. I personally don't have many worries about special teams, Pete. Like, this feels like nice and cozy.
What about punter?
Yeah,
there's 30,000 kids that go to Virginia Tech, and one of them's bound to be able to boot a ball 45 yards or something.
Peter Moore, though, I mean, he was a stud.
He was a stud. Like, it's the one thing that I trust Virginia Tech to do is kick the ball.
And now you guys not splitting responsibilities, all locked in on special teams. So
Tucker Holloway, if he's back at punt returner, I think that's a serious game changer. Like, Tech hasn't had a lot of big special teams plays in the last few years. I think they had 2 special teams touchdowns last year, a blocked field goal against Clemson, and then the Jalen Lane punt return against Marshall. I think that was it. So not a ton of big plays from there.
Yeah, but depth and options there. Like I said, true freshman Jamari Deloach back there practicing catching punts. Last year you have Holloway out. You have Jay Landon behind him. It's Ollie Jennings, who really hasn't done that too much in his collegiate career, and some other guys. So I think working in that depth, you have Cam Selden back there on kick return. Obviously, the Williams, and just giving them those different looks. Trey Mason. So just getting guys ready, and so. Nice. That's sort of my wrap on the specialists. You got John Love still doing his thing.
In terms of recruiting, there's been a ton of prospects on campus.
Yeah.
The scrimmage last Friday was highly attended. Some big guys, like big-time guys that seem like they like Virginia Tech. On the 2026 recruiting front, is there anything that you can divulge that seems like you're excited about? I did notice a crystal ball got put in for a certain prospect from Sam's neck of the woods.
Yeah, Josh Pittman down at Kings Fork in Suffolk, Virginia. What an awesome young man. First off, gotten to know Josh just from being at different camps. I remember because I interviewed him right after they lost in the regional final to Maury. And that's just a leader of a group, not only a great player who, honestly, he talked about it when I think interview you can find over on vtscoop.com, but also when I talked to him about, honestly, maybe the perfect archetype for this Sam Cephas defense. We haven't seen it roll out yet, but a guy who can go back, play defense, step up to the line, put his hand in the ground, get after the quarterback. Really a guy who's versatile, and they've done super well with him, maintaining relationships. I don't currently have a crystal ball in that's from Brian Doan, but a really great player. Virginia Tech sits really well with him. Keeping it in the footprint, obviously you want to keep the 757 right in the boat, but a really great young man, really great player, great frame, man. He's grown. I think I don't know where he's at now, but a really great frame. You can go check out interviews with me and him on X or VT Scoop. I know they just got a really good update out on him, but that's a good one.
I think he has 6 power offers already.
I know Pitt's involved, Syracuse, UNC is trying to get in the mix here down
Michigan
the stretch.
State was in there.
Yep, he was just in Michigan State. Maybe sets up an OV there.
So, and I think I noticed like a couple of the linemen we've been hunting. And with the new offensive line coach, what can you tell us about like Matt Moore's recruiting style and like how you think that'll impact us?
Yeah, I think it'll be just based on early reviews, not only the offers getting sent out, but the guys and the willingness to go take larger classes. Over the last 2 cycles, you took 5 guys, and at a position where you have 5 guys on the field at once, it's just a tough numbers game because, you really got to get a lot of bodies. It's a position where you got to get a lot of bodies in. Mm-hmm. You sent a lot of offers, and man, the feedback is incredible coming back.
That's what happens when you put guys in the NFL, like Matt Moore's
Yeah, exactly. And when you see they sit in these meetings and they really feel like they're part of it. When you come in and they've seen all your film from high school already before you get on the visit, and they're talking you through things, coaching you through things already, it just feels personal. Done really great job. Smooth transition, picking up where the board was and just keeping the momentum going of Virginia Tech. Doesn't matter the O-line coach change, just keeping the momentum pushing for Virginia Tech. And like I said, this is going to be a massive weekend for that spring game. weather's maybe not going to be perfect, but like you're going to have a lot of guys here. It's a really, really big weekend. Some big offensive linemen are going to be in town. So yeah, he's done really well to get so many of these guys on campus already in the spring. Got a lot of official visits locked in. So he's done extremely well there. Great feedback so far.
All right. We won't press you too much. Sam, do you have final things for Kolby before we let him go?
Yeah, if you had to rate the vibes on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being we're going to win the Natty, 1 being we should disavow the program, where are we at?
The vibes. Oh, man, what a great question. I would say the vibes are I'm going to set it like a Vegas win total. The vibes are at like a 6.4. 6.4
All right.
vibes.
Okay.
You know, like
I think there's still a little bit of like disappointment hangover from last year.
Oh,
like
without a doubt.
You can tell it ate at Brent Pry a bit. You can see it. Like he goes out of his ways to mention that they being the coaches around the program, the players around the program, very disappointed with how last year went. And that's you want them to feel disappointed because it didn't go well. But at the same time, you can tell there's kind of this hunger about them, but they kind of know they're starting from square one. That's the vibe that I've gotten. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not necessarily a good thing. There's a lot of time left to kick off in Atlanta, though.
And there's so much time. And I think what's leading to that sprinkling of optimism is obviously spring game weekend. And I know there's so much that can caught up in that, but you're still going to have football in Lane Stadium, which is massive. I know people feel super disconnected in the transfer portal era and all these high school guys. They're like, I don't know the names, but coming in and seeing younger guys, brand new coaches, it just feels new. When so many things maybe got stale, it's just a completely new look. So you don't know if it's going to be great or terrible, but it's new. So everyone's sort of along for the ride, catching it up as it goes. So I think that's it. And then everyone at the end of the day who's watching along is just wanting them to win football games. So we'll see if this approach is the one that goes.
Yeah, I don't know if the vibes are like bad. It's just that we're in such a wait and see mode because of how it went last year. And I've been as positive as anyone in terms of like what I think about what Coach Pry could do if he made some changes. And I got to say, like last season, it broke a lot of people. There was a lot of people on the fan base that were like, okay, we're finally going to take that next step since 2012, where we are back on the trajectory. Like that's what Pry had everyone believing a year ago. And then you fall short of expectations. And now it's the boy who cried wolf, right? Like we're not, how are we supposed to believe that these hires were the ones when the last hires were supposed to be the ones and all this? I still have a lot of hope. I still think that the way Pry has done things has largely been correct. It's just that on Saturdays, it hasn't always worked out. Maybe with the new changes, it will work out. The Kyron news is the last punch to the nuts, right? Right when we thought maybe we were turning a corner.
Right when everyone's just riding the wave. I'm putting out practice reports. He looks like the guy. He's spinning it. He's leading. And then at the big event, it comes crashing down.
But he was there, right?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, see, like that was another rumor. Like, let's dispel all that. Like,
Kyron was at the big event. He wasn't trying to get out of the big event.
Yeah, no.
It's injuries happen, and unfortunately, like when it's the starting quarterback, that's what happens. We're waiting for Keelan. The Keelan Adams injury was disappointing too, and the surgeries are probably not too dissimilar in terms of their severity. But
and about the time they'll hopefully be back around the same time.
Right. And I feel good about them being back and being healthy. I just think that with last year going the way that did, and then we hear that Kyron's hurt afterwards, some of the messaging has people been out of shape. And now how are they supposed to believe when we keep being told that we're about to be back and we're not back? Well, Kolby, we thank you for coming here and kind of telling everybody the truth of what you see with your own eyes at practice and divulging what you can divulge, because we know you can't say everything. But we really appreciate you taking the time and hanging out with us for over an hour tonight.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys as always. It's always an honor to come on and chop it up and talk ball with you guys. So thank you guys as always, and hopefully see you guys Saturday. So stay
Yes,
warm.
yes. I will see you in Blacksburg this weekend, buddy. All right.
Right
You have
on,
a good
man.
one.
Thank you.
Peace.
See you, Kolby.
All right. Thank you to Kolby. Before we get to a little bit of a beer break and going over some basketball and baseball stuff, the Two Deep Hokies Under the Influence podcast is brought to you by Roback. You guys know Roback, the performance activewear designed for those who crave activity. They put out the new drop of the white hoodie and the white quarter zip. They are absolutely beautiful. Make sure you use code 2DEEPVT to get 20% off your first order. You can use different emails. If you've already gotten it once, use your work email, use your wife's email. Get it again. 2DEEPVT. Load up your cart. They've got the hoodies, tees, quarter zips. I love their polos. I have several, and the cut makes you look well cut. So
It's also it's if you're a golfer and you, especially if you're golfing in warmer weather, humid weather, it's the best golf polo I own.
they're fantastic. They stretch
yeah.
so well. They're loose. They're comfortable. So yeah, 2DEEPVT for 20% off your order. Roback Crave Activity. Sam, are you drinking anything tonight?
Yeah, dude. Kirkland hard seltzer.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Is that grapefruit?
Yeah. I'm not usually a grapefruit fan, but these are really good. They're only 100 calories, 5%. They just get the ball rolling. I do have, I have a beer review up on the YouTube from Nansen Brewing Station in downtown Suffolk, Virginia. It's a really good microbrewery. If you're in the area, check it out. They usually have food trucks and live music and stuff like that. I'll try to get a few more from there on there as my last few months here in the 757. But that's a really good one down here.
Yeah, I liked that beer review. It's on Sons of Saturday YouTube channel and on our Instagram at 2DeepVT on Instagram. Women's basketball. Oh, let me talk about my beer. This beer is actually awesome. This is the Cape May Brewing Cosmic Shores. And every year, Cape May puts out what I feel like is the new best hazy IPA that they've done. This is in the running for the best brewery in New Jersey. They get a lot of good distribution. You can find it a lot of places, but this is brewed with Galaxy hops, notes of peach and passion fruit. Now, I'm not saying I'm tasting peach and or passion fruit, but it's just one of those hazy IPA. I'm almost done. Hazy IPAs with that fruit flavor, and at 6.5%, this is perfect for a hot summer's day. It's got a really cool can. It's got like a potion bottle with the Galaxy right in the middle of it. So Cape May comes correct, man. I think last year I had the Hazy Dawn or something. That's Athletic. What's the one I had? Upside Dawn, I think is what it was called. Whatever. I'll figure it out. But it was on the show. This one's also really good. Cape May Brewing is excellent. Cosmic Shores. I'm going to go. Sam put a 4.25 on his beer.
The Mystic Maiden, the Scottish ale. Very, very good.
We're in the same. We got Cosmic, we got Mystic. I'm also going to give this a 4.25.
Nice. Wow. Huge scores this week.
Yeah. We're feeling generous. We're feeling good. Women's basketball. We'll do that first because it's quick. Karis, Carly are back. We talked about that. Kale is going to be back. Mackenzie Nelson looks to be back as well. We got a portal transfer from Purdue, Sophie Swanson. She commits to Virginia Tech, a 5'10 guard. She played in 28 games last year, started 9, or played in 28, started something like that. 9 points per game. Takes more threes than twos. She's going to be like kind of a floor spacer. She could have shot a little bit better. Her shot wasn't as good as her freshman year last year, but she adds something defensively. And I think she has a lot of upside in her game. I think it's a nice addition in Sophie Swanson.
Yeah, and I think the difference with the women's program as opposed to really a lot of the other athletic programs at Tech is they're recruiting really well out of high school. So they don't have to dig as deep into the portal volume-wise as opposed to what the men's program will have to do.
Very true. That's very true. All right, let's move to the men. Ben Hammond, Tyler Johnson, and Jaden Shute are all back. That is step one. That is good to get those guys back in the fold. We did learn that Connor Servin is out. He is entering the transfer portal. We thought he might be a big backup piece off the bench, but he is not. He is leaving. But the biggest thing that happened to Virginia Tech basketball is getting Chester Frazier back in Blacksburg. He comes over from West Virginia. If people remember he was with VT when Buzz was in town. I think only for 1 year. Then he ended up at Illinois, West Virginia. But defensively, Sam, this should make a big difference for Virginia Tech.
Yeah, and you can go check out the article that's on sonsofsaturday.com. I broke down the defenses he's been a part of as a coach and their Ken Palm ratings. He's never had a bad defense. In fact, most years he's been a coach, he's had a very good to great defense, like top 20 defense in the country. This is a guy who knows how to play defense. He was all two-time All Big Ten Defensive Team of the Year at Illinois. Always been good. West Virginia had an immense improvement last year defensively. They got all the way up to 14th in Ken Palm's adjusted defensive rating. So they're going to be able to play some defense this year. And a guy that they brought over from West Virginia, Amani Hansberry, it's a great portal pickup from that defensive aspect. Like, he gives you a little bit of that size, physicality that it seemed like the Hokies were kind of missing last year, that you saw a little bit from Tyler Johnson of. Very similar body type here. And what I love about this, and it's not being talked about, Hansberry was originally at Illinois with Chester Frazier. Frazier goes to West Virginia. He follows Frazier. Frazier goes to Virginia Tech. Hansberry comes with him. So this is a guy that Frazier clearly likes and clearly wants with him every he's gone. And so for me, it feels like you're getting, I'm going to use a Buzz Williams here. You ready for this? You're getting an OKG, our kind of guy. So I think that's really exciting. It's starting to come together. You're starting to see a little momentum. I don't think Virginia Tech will be a program that will be towards the top of the portal rankings in college basketball. I don't think they're going to fund NIL at that level, but I certainly don't think they're going to be at the bottom of the ACC.
Yeah. I mean, this alone, he was a 4-star in the portal.
Yeah, he's a very good player, and he scored double figures in I think 4 of their last 6 games. Shoots the ball decent, about 30% career shooter from 3. So you're getting a little bit of outside game too.
Excellent rebounder.
Yeah. I mean, this is the kind of, you need 3 or 4 of these guys on your team if you're going to compete at the power conference level. So good.
One last thing about him, good pedigree too. He was the 61st ranked prospect coming out in 2023, which some people like going back to the what do you call that? Whatever, the high school rankings, and some people don't. But I always think that it's a measure of upside, right? So you see, he was 61 in the country. Like, we don't get a whole lot of guys that rank top 75 in the country that come through Virginia Tech.
He's 6'8", too. So he gives you good size. Like, they're 6'8", 240. You get yourself a bruiser. He can play the 4. He can play a big 3 if he needs to, I think. So exciting pickup.
For sure. And room to improve. So, all right, let's move to the Diamond Sports, Sam, because that's all I have on basketball. We are waiting for more portal news before we expand more on what that team could look like next year. We'll do softball first. They are number 12. I think they actually dropped a spot in the rankings, Sam.
Softball rankings are weird because
no one's moving in the top.
Well, everyone in the top of the sport wins every game.
Yeah.
But they've now won 14 in a row. Bree Peck had 3 homers today against Charlotte. So she now owns the record for most RBIs in a career and most home runs in a career for Virginia Tech. So what a decorated career for Bree
awesome,
Peck.
Man.
They've now won 14 in a row. They swept NC State. They've beaten Liberty twice, who's still a top 25 team. There's a lot of big games left for Virginia Tech.
ACC.
First in the ACC right now. They have the tiebreaker over Florida State. So they are setting themselves up very well to host a regional. I think if this trajectory continues, I can't imagine them not being a top 8 team in the country, but we'll see. I mean, it's really tough to break through.
We talked about this several weeks ago, but Emma Lemley did an interview, and I believe it was with us. I believe it was with Billy or somebody.
Yep.
And she talked about how they were only getting better, where they were young and they already had a good record. They played those tough out of conference games. And she's like, yeah, this is still like preseason. We're still like just scratching the surface of what we can do. And boy, has that come home to roost, because she was dead on, because now they're run ruling teams. They're just crushing.
They're 33-5. Their losses, they have 2 losses at top 10 LSU, and then they have one at Alabama loss. They lost on a really windy day against Villanova by a run, a team that they beat 18-2 a few hours before that.
Right.
And then they have a loss to top 25 Virginia. Those are your losses. Everybody else, you're crushing. You swept Stanford. You've beaten Liberty twice. You absolutely demolished NC State on the road. They're probably going to demolish Notre Dame and Pitt as well. So that series to end the season, they host Florida State in Blacksburg. And that is not going to be a series of like which team hosts a regional. I think they'll both host a regional. It might be to host a super regional. So that's going to be a really exciting end to the season for the softball girls.
Yeah, they are kicking ass. And if you want any hope that Virginia brings home a team national championship, this is the team that we should be rooting for.
Yeah.
This is the team. All right, baseball, Sam. This is your area of expertise. They popped into the rankings, number 25.
Woo.
Another ACC series win.
Yep, 3 in a row.
I was hoping they'd get the sweep, but how many wins is this in a row in terms of the series?
It's 3 series wins in a row. 2 of them on the road, 2 of them against top 25 teams. Notre Dame is in a pretty major rebuilding year, but that's a really tough place to play because it's South Bend, Indiana, and it's the grossest weather city of any major college town in America. It was like snowing and really windy and rainy. So that Friday game was weird. And I think Virginia Tech, out of an abundance of caution, pulled Brett Renfro early because they didn't believe the mound was of good condition. So they pulled him. And Tech had like 3 errors. It was just not a good game. But then they win on Saturday. They win on Sunday. On Sunday, they started 4 freshmen, 4 true freshmen. They started Anderson French, who's a true freshman catcher. He's been playing first. Did a really good job. The guy's like 6'6", has a great stretch. Hudson Luderman, it looks like an all-freshman ACC guy. He's been incredible at third base. Best weekend of ACC play for the 2 freshman starters, Jake Marciano and for Logan Eisenrich. They both pitched very well. This Hokies team is really starting to put it together, and they should get some guys back here pretty soon. I think they'll get Settlinger back, who's the relief pitcher, and they should be getting Madden Clement, who's a starting pitcher. They should be getting him back in a few weeks here, hopefully. So this team looks pretty good. Garrett Michelle, star first baseman, kind of got another freak injury. Not sure what's going on with him, if he'll be available for a while or not, but there's depth on this team. They're playing really well. Massive, massive series this weekend. Top 10 Florida State heads to town. Florida State did just get swept by Wake Forest, however. And in fact, they got crushed. But it's a very, very good, very talented Seminoles team that will probably be kind of angry as they head to Blacksburg.
So Florida State got swept by Wake Forest, who we happened to
swept. Yep.
In Winston-Salem.
Yes.
So the prospect of getting Florida State in Blacksburg, maybe not playing their best baseball. This is huge. This is a big weekend.
So to put it in perspective, right now, if you were to do some bracketology for the NCAA regionals, Tech is a 2 seed. So 1, 2, 3, 4 seed, 16 regionals. Tech is right now probably the number 28 to 30 seed in the country, around there. You really want to be like 23rd, 24th, because that way you avoid the SEC powerhouses, right? So Tech has some room to grow. They'll have great opportunities against Florida State, who is right now ahead of them. UNC, they'll have them at home as well, who's right ahead of them. And I think, again, last series of the season, hosting UVA. UVA has not had a good year at all by their standards, but that's a very talented team who will probably be playing for a spot in a regional. So that is going to be a huge rivalry series at the end of the season as well.
And we've got ACCs coming up too. And obviously it's a little bit off, but like you were going through that today on Twitter of just like, where should we want to be in the ACCs?
Yeah, it's a different format. It's like single elimination, and you could potentially play a lot of baseball in a week. And Tech right now, I don't think their starting pitchers are inning eaters enough for them to survive a long tournament run. I think they need that double bye, right? But they're going to have great opportunities to set themselves up. They have Troy tomorrow, who's a number 20 team in the country. Troy Trojans from Alabama. They're very good mid-major. They haven't been great in midweeks, but that's a great test. They have 2 games against Liberty still to come in the non-conference. So there's a ton of opportunities to build a resume here. That is without a question. They just got to stay healthy. They got to keep winning.
They got to keep pounding the baseball. That's what they got to keep doing. I mean, and they have been for the most part. Every now and again, we have those games where we can't hit anything, but like that's what the strength of this team is. They freaking rake, and I'm excited to see what they do over these next few weeks. All right, that's going to do it for the show. Kolby was awesome. Fun show. We covered a lot of ground. We're about 90 minutes in, so I'm going to cut it off. Make sure you're subscribed. Sons of Saturday on YouTube, Too Deep on Apple Podcast and Spotify, and as well as Billy and Pat stuff over on the Sons of Saturday podcast feed on Too Deep. Sorry, on Too Deep. On Spotify. I am so tired, Sam. Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And until next time, when we are gonna be coming to you from Maroon Door.
It's gonna be a little bit. You're gonna have Maroon Door, and then we're gonna have a slightly different show post spring game. It'll be kind of fun.
That's right. Go Hokies.
Go Hokies.